Let's face it, parenting is the most important job on earth. Every day presents a stack of different challenges, and more often than not, the answer is outside of the box. On this podcast, we will offer proven strategies, interview pioneers in education, give insights into how to be successful parents, and even share our imperfect experiences of being parents ourselves. We're all in on this journey, and we will span the globe to find out what is working and who has the answers. This is the Sound Foundations for Parenting podcast. Here are your hosts, Darren McCarthy and Brian Powers.
Welcome to the Sound Foundations for Parenting podcast. Hello, Darren. How are you doing?
Great. How you doing, Brian?
Good. We are today kind of talking about big connections in the small world. I was at a podcasting conference recently, probably one of the last in-person conferences that was held on the face of the earth before everything went nuts with this coronavirus. And I met Greg Rollett, and we started talking and seeing how we could work together. And once the coronavirus hit and everybody was kind of pushed back into their homes, he reached out, and we're talking about putting together a resource, and it's really come together.
Yeah, it's amazing when four dads get together and they've got their eyes set on something that's going to help out their families. How quickly things can actually get done. And I think the other thing is that, you're in a quarantined environment, so there's little, the distractions are your own, right? Correct.
Yes. And it's, these guys, Greg Rollett and Matthew Goldfarb co-host together the Dad Chat podcast. And that's what brought him to Podfest. And they're essentially, bringing resources and ideas to dads. And we figured it just made sense to kind of put our heads together and let's put together a resource, a scheduler, and just content for folks, parents that are now home and have become a homeschooling parent.
Yeah, this whole concept came, I know when you started working from home, I started working from home, and our two worlds started to come together where the kids were coming home, our wives were coming home, everybody was going to be in one place. And I know I spent the first week just trying to get my office straight. Like, where am I going to work? Is the internet working? Simple stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then trying to do that time management thing that, those big blocks that we talk about in business. And then it was kind of like, okay, now that that's straight, how do we get organized as a family? And then we started talking about the big blocks.
Sure.
I was like, okay, now the schools didn't have the curriculum really set. So they weren't necessarily organized quite yet. This is obviously something that kind of happened to everybody. And I was like, oh, okay. So if we can get organized, how do we know that today was a good day or a bad day?
Yeah.
How do we know if, you look back on the day and go, okay, what are some of the things that we could have done today to make, it a successful parenting day?
Sure.
And that's where this big blocks, little kids came rolling from.
Big rocks.
Big rocks. What did I say?
You said big blocks, but it's the same thing.
Big blocks, big rocks.
We get it. And we talk about, in this combined episode, the four of us, what we did, what's going on, and how we came to doing this, 30-day calendar planner and resources to help you and your kids succeed at home. And so why don't we get into it? We talk about a lot of the details in the episode, and this will give folks more details. And then this document and this product is going to come to you free. You can download it now. There's a link here in the show notes episode, and the notes for the episode. Excuse me. And it's free to use and kind of get things in order for this new normal.
I know that you and I have been using this as a tool ourselves.
Yep. And
we really feel like it's going to be useful for everybody else too. So hope you enjoy the product, and I hope you enjoy the podcast with our friends from Dad Chat.
Hey, and welcome to a very special joint episode of Dad Chat and Sound Foundations for Parenting. This is Greg Rollett. I got my co-host, Matthew Goldfarb, along with two really, really cool friends today. We got Brian and Darren on the line, and we've been working behind the scenes for the past few weeks. As soon as kind of the world changed drastically, to come together and create some resources for parents to really help them through this time to both have sanity for themselves and create that structure, a little bit of discipline, but more importantly, know that not every day is going to be perfect, but that we are going to put the big rocks into our day that are going to move our kids forward, get them educated, get them fed well, get them the sleep and nutrition that they need, get them outside and playing and living as normal a life as they can. And so we'll be talking a little bit about that, a little bit about how we're all staying sane during this quarantine process. First, gentlemen, I'll throw it to Darren and Brian first. Welcome to the show, guys. And you guys are kind of in the epicenter of this whole thing, or it's at least down the street from you guys. So
Yeah.
Everything going well in New York?
Yeah. Thanks for having us, Greg.
Yeah, everything. It's been interesting here in New York. Let me tell you that. A lot of adjustment, a lot of how you say, trying to figure out what we're doing. Are we the epicenter? Where we live in New York, we're more cornfields than city lights.
Yes.
But a lot of people that work here would work in Manhattan as well. So are they heading into the city anymore? Not really. Everybody's home and everybody's home with their kids, and some people are loving it and some people are going out of their minds.
Yeah. I'm kind of loving it some days and going out of my mind the others.
Yeah.
It's hour by hour.
Yeah. Like for me, as I tend to work from home anyway. So I think I said this last week with Greg, and in some ways for me, this is my dream. I'm an introvert. So now getting to stay inside and no one giving me grief for being a homebody is fantastic, aside from obviously the insanity going on. So it's, yeah.
So introvert is the new cool, huh?
Yeah.
They're like the leaders. They're the ones who are going to take over during this timing. So I wanted to talk a little bit about. So I know I go to an office on a regular basis. I think Brian and Darren, you guys probably go to an office as well. So how is this adjustment period been for you guys? I guess just for context, how long have you been home now? How long have the kids been home now? Just for some context, and has it been business as usual? Has it been all hands on deck? Like, just give us a little bit of what's happening over there.
Oh, and also tell us, both of you, how many kids you have and how old.
Yeah. Go ahead, Darren.
I have two kids. I have an 11-year-old boy and a 9-year-old. She'll be 9 in April this month. Coming up. You better get ready for that party with two invitees.
A virtual one.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as the work situation goes, it's been about 2 weeks, and we have about 27 people in our office, and it was a real true adjustment for everyone. I looked up one day and I saw that there were 10 people still in the office after kind of the mandate started. To get everybody out of the office. And I realized if there's no method of communication, and if you literally don't start guiding people to the door, they're going to keep showing up and no one's going to know what other people are there. And there's a lot of organization, a lot of logistics, and a lot of kind of guiding. I always have this feeling like during crisis that somebody always steps up and somebody always steps down. And so you find yourself in this role where obviously you can't step down because you're in more of a managerial or an entrepreneurial spirit. So you have to step up and you have to set up your logistics straight. And then I think what really started to blend is that you saw people trying to get their day lives, their normal office lives organized. And that kind of blended with getting the kids straight. And then you see this kind of what we call bad soup, right? It's got the wrong ingredients. And so, in education, we have this other expression. It's called disintegration before integration. And so, the first week is like a big blow up. And then you start to go, well, I got my home office straight, but my kids are a mess, and then it's like, oh, the kids are straight. And then, so I think for us, it's been an adjustment. Absolutely. How about you, bro?
Yeah. So I have 3 little guys, 8, 6, and 3, 2 boys and a girl. I'm lucky enough that I have a home office kind of off the kitchen, which you're probably hearing in the background. But I'm able to work from home when I need to or when I want to. I do have an office down the street and then another one about an hour away. But kind of like same with Darren. I mean, we were seeing folks kind of not leaving, and it was time to really make that decision and say, enough. We're gonna close the office, and everybody's gonna work from home except for the folks. I work during the day. I work for a CPA firm, so it was kind of crazy time before they moved the deadline, and they were looking at each other saying, "We're not going home. We got to get these tax returns out the door." But they've eased that pressure a little bit recently. But no, it's like I agree with Darren. It's one day after the other. Some day it's like, hey, great, work's organized, bosses are happy, getting stuff out the door, and the kids are running around crazy. And then the next, it's like perfect situation at home with the kids. They're doing their work, getting what they need done, and then the office has gone to hell.
And what's interesting is I think that's kind of across the board as parents were all of a sudden just made into, not just homeschooling teachers, but following a curriculum, following county guidelines. A lot of these schools, I know by us, we're in Seminole County, Florida, and, new technology that, the teachers are getting used to, the superintendents and just passing it down. And now the parents have to learn a whole new system and the kids have to learn a whole new, it's just, it's been crazy. And then same goes for work, right? Luckily we already use a lot of the softwares like Zoom and Slack and things like that. But for a lot of people, that was so you're learning new technology and processes at the office, you're learning new technology and processes for school. And, as both of you kind of said, it is kind of a recipe for disaster. And I think when parents go into this, just thinking like, all right, we're just going to bulldozer our way through this, a lot of things fall off the map. A lot of things kind of don't make it onto the schedule, and you end your day going, oh crap, I didn't even feed my kids lunch today. Or, we didn't get in, this activity. Or, even my wife, we were just talking at lunch before we started recording. She goes, man, I thought that was Colton is my 7-year-old. He's in first grade. I thought that was his work for the week. That was only his work for the day. He didn't do anything yesterday, as we thought it was the entire week. And we were trying to not let him do everything on Monday. And so today that, so something cool that we all kind of came together to realize is that there are these, we're calling them big rocks, the big things that we need to accomplish during the day. And if we can knock out as many big rocks as possible, everything else kind of falls into place, if you will. And so I know you guys, on your show, on your podcast, you have incredible guests, amazing resources for parents. And you helped us, Matt and I, to identify some of these big rocks, if you will. So I'd love if you guys can just break down a little bit about, the big rock concept, why these are so important to the development of our kids, but also just scheduling this stuff in for everyone's sanity, so that we can have success at home. So just kind of give us an overview of what some of these big rocks are and why these are some of the things that we need to try to fit on our calendars on a daily basis.
So this kind of goes back to my background in education, and I got to cover a little bit of the training because I'm an outside the box educator. I only taught in the classroom for 3 years. And I'm more of a rogue. I was, almost like educated on the street by some really phenomenal women, actually. My mentor is 81 years old now. She's based out of Austin, Texas, and still thriving. She actually just finished her first book.
That's awesome.
Then my other mentor is she's out of Northern California, and she's written 5 books on dyslexia, and she's approaching her 80s, and she's just launching her first app. So these people are still in it. They think outside the box. They don't teach in the classroom anymore because the classroom is it's a little bit more of a controlled environment. And sometimes when you're working with kids, you have to go outside the box. So it kind of all starts there. But then you roll back into this Maslow's theory or hierarchy of needs. So there's certain things you have to get in line before you can build. So one of the reasons our company is called Sound Foundations for Parenting is because we want a sound, solid foundation to build on for our kids. And I think as parents, we kind of take on the day, and it's almost like if we could just hold on to the tiger's tail and get to the end of the day without the tiger eating us, we survived. And the truth of the matter is there are certain things that kids need in order for them to thrive. And so one of those things, we just had a recent guest, and we're bringing these guests on, which are, to me, phenomenal people. And, LinkedIn is a fantastic source. If you want somebody to speak about a specific topic and you like their content and you like them personally, they're there. So our last guest actually was speaking about sleep. And the truth of the matter is one of your biggest blocks is sleep. If your kid's not sleeping, that whole day, as you guys know, is going to be a totally different day. Right. And so what we don't typically do as parents, we're usually like right in the moment, or we're not in the moment at all. And that's kind of a different podcast altogether. Right. But if we're right in the moment and we see our kids having a meltdown, we don't usually think about why are they having the meltdown. And so our guest before the last one was talking about antecedent behavior consequence. So we're always focused on the behavior. Kids having a meltdown, kids not having this is whatever's happening right now. It's not working for any of us. And what we don't do is we don't go back to the antecedent, which is that thing that happened before the behavior. And a lot of times those things are big blocks that we're missing. So one of them is sleep. So that's why we put that in there. The other one is nutrition, right? So I was just literally just happened to me 2 days ago. So I'm kind of having a little bit of a struggle. My son doesn't want to get in the shower. He wants to play around, And I'm kind of like, just get in the shower, dude. and so I'm trying to figure this all out. And then I realized, you know what? He didn't really have the right meal, and he ate a little early that night. So he didn't have protein. He was kind of running out of steam, and I'm staring at this behavior in the face, not realizing that, well, hey, the antecedent, the thing that happened before the behavior, is that he missed the nutrition. Nutrition is another big block. And as parents, we're usually just worried about getting something in them. We forget that, there's vital things. And I know you guys are healthy guys. Maybe, Greg, you want to talk a little bit about nutrition to a certain degree?
It's really ironic that with ourselves, and Matt and I were just talking about this in a conversation we had last night, is nutrition. We know that if we eat something not so good for us, we know that that's going to take us out and give us some brain fog and maybe make us slow or sluggish or whatever the case is. And when we eat something good, we see the energy, behind it. But sometimes when we're planning out meals for our kids, especially picky eaters, which I have one of, you forget how much that affects their mood, their behavior, their tiredness, their energy. And so, as much as I would love to eat chicken nuggets, mac and cheese, and French fries, 5 days a week, like most of us would, or pizza, or, whatever it is, there is an effect that happens on them. And so, even on, our middle son, Ryder, who at the moment is a picky eater, and even if he is having, chicken nuggets and mac and cheese, because it's something that he will eat and it at least get him some calories, we're always supplementing that. So supplementing that with a smoothie, supplementing that with a shake, supplementing that with something on that side, because we know the mood and the behavior. And like you said, everything is a domino effect, right? So the food, if it's sugar laden, affects bath time, which affects bedtime, which affects the time they go to sleep, which affects the time they wake up. And if they're waking up late or groggy, or, then that affects the morning and getting so it's all this big domino effect that we really need to pay attention to. And I think now in a lot of the situations that we find ourselves facing, it's vital, right? Because before you were almost like forced, so whether you're happy or not, you're getting your butt in the car and we're dropping you off at school, right?
Right.
Now there's nowhere to take them, right? You're not dumping it, you're dumping them on the teacher, and the teacher is yourself or your spouse. So, so knowing all of this, I think it's going to help parents to set up better routines for sleep, for nutrition, for exercise, for outside time, because it's going to make them better in the classroom. It's going to make them more focused and present when they go to start doing their work. It's going to make them, have that energy to get through that afternoon lull. Like you can't give a 7-year-old a Red Bull, So it's the food that you give them at lunch. It's the healthy. And again,
you can't give a 7-year-old a Red Bull.
Make for a cool YouTube video. But you're 100% right. I mean, I have my middle guy's a picky eater as well. It must be something about the middle child. But we're finding now that they're home. Like before, when they were going to school, they were on a schedule even with eating. Breakfast, we knew we were going to get them out the door with something, nutritious and healthy. We packed their lunch, and then they come home for snack and dinner. And, we were controlling a lot of it. Now I've got a house full of grazers, and especially the two older guys, they can reach things now. So it's not even like, hey, I'm going to put this up here so they can't eat the cookies or chips or something like that. We've kind of actually never gotten rid of, those safety clips that you put on your cabinets and drawers, like that you pull together. And
yeah. You got them back now?
They're still on. I'm not taking them off. I got to find one for the liquor cabinet for myself.
Gotta get combo locks, so there's combination.
Exactly.
So I just want to kind of tap onto something else that I kind of think is relevant to this whole thing is we always we talk about addressing things social, emotion. We do physical, and we do social, emotional, and then we do cognitive. And those are the generalized goal areas. So if you talk about big rocks, those are the mountains, right? So the bottom of the mountain is the physical stuff. That's where we talk about nutrition, and we talk about, getting the right sleep and everything else. There's just certain things you need to do. The other big one there is hydration. And so I'm noticing myself, when I'm in the office, I got the little water cooler, and I head back to the water cooler, and I'm good. As Matt takes a drink. Nice. And water is important, right? So we have to do hydration. That's another big kind of thing to look at. But then you move up the line to the social emotional piece. And that's kind of where a lot of parents kind of get caught up in the language and the behaviors and things like that. And at the top of the mountain or the apex is the cognitive. And that's where we're getting into all the learning stuff. So I think we miscalculate what the schools are responsible for doing. And it's kind of like they're responsible for the whole mountain and building the road. And our job is just to basically watch the construction happen. And the truth of the matter is their main focal point is that it is the apex, is the top of the mountain, is that curriculum type stuff. So, now suddenly we're given all the rest of the mountain to take care of, and they're giving us the 2 hours worth of work. Which is why it becomes one of the blocks, but we have to look at all the other pieces and parts. And that's kind of why we added the processing piece as another main block. The processing is your auditory processing, your visual processing, all the things that build that solid base of the mountain so that you can put anything at the top and it'll hold. Does that make sense?
I love that. I want to throw a curveball into this entire process because it's hard enough with two parents at home, right? Dealing with all of this. And then, so Matt, I'm going to throw you this one is that, you are a co-parent. So you're sharing custody, with your ex-wife. You have a girlfriend who also has a child. And so you have all of these different environments, right? And so you can't control necessarily what your ex-wife's doing. You can't control, but it all affects what you're doing as well. And so how have you guys been able to get on a similar schedule? Do you have any tips for anyone in that situation that has, made it better for you in that situation? Because I know there's a lot of single parents out there, or even just, my next door neighbor, they're married, but she is a nurse and she's working essentially 24-hour shifts over there. She's in the COVID-19 unit. It's crazy, but she's gone, 24 hours out of every other day. And so he's basically single parenting. So what, as you look at these big rocks, how do you think about them, and what are some tips you have for people in that kind of single parent co-parenting situation?
Yeah, definitely. So, I think, and I've said this before, I'm lucky in the sense that my ex and I have a really good relationship. We have a friendship at this point, and I think we see eye to eye on 90%, if not more, of the things for my son Nate, who's 7. And so right when this started, the first thing that we just kind of did together was we kind of said, well, how do we want to approach this? What is a schedule that we could create, kind of taking into account a lot of what the guys are talking about, what Darren and Brian are talking about. So, in a given day, how do we make sure we have time for physical activity? How do we make sure we have time set aside for his schoolwork? Since he can't be social with his friends, can we set up FaceTime appointments, things like that? and trying to have some kind of schedule to maintain normalcy as much as we can, also so that I can get the work done. I do think I'm fortunate in the sense that I have my child half the time. So I have half the week where I am actually completely free, and that's when I put my head down to do my work. And so, I think for parents who are single, I do think when you have your free time, you really need to make sure that is really when you should schedule a lot of the work you have to get done. I don't know how it is for the rest of you three, but I do find the days that I have my son more challenging to get work done. Even if it's like Nate's supposed to be doing his work, he asks me questions every 5 minutes. It's hard to kind of get into the zone. So I think there's that piece. The other part really is I have spoken with friends who they don't have that relationship with their co-parents, and it can be a huge challenge. Everything from who are the people within our social circle that my kids are interacting with, and do I have a say in who they interact with? And that can be challenging. And I think I don't have a specific answer, but if you find yourself in a more of a tumultuous relationship, I think you have to try your best to come to a meeting of the minds and really focus on what's going to be best for the kid. What are the decisions that are going to be best for the kid? And really try to work together as best as you can. There was a Huffington Post article I found where divorce lawyers were saying, when this is all said and done, there's going to be an accountability. So it's like, if you're in the middle of a divorce, or, if you're trying to stick to your divorce agreement, custody agreement, to the letter of the law, it's not going to work. And there will be a reckoning for people who've been complete jerks through all of this. I don't know if I've answered your question exactly, but yeah, it's definitely challenging, but I think it is about what is going to be best for the kids. And even with my girlfriend, we have different ideas on child rearing. We have different types of kids, so we have different rules and regulations, and we're not bringing all the kids together, for intimate play dates. But, I think it is about just trying to be as much as you can on the same page with your co-parent. And then having conversations like yesterday. I had a semi-free day. I'm babbling for a moment. I had a semi-free day. So my son came over for a couple of hours because I could make it work. He then wanted to stay over, and I was trying to explain to him that he couldn't because we have a schedule, and also I couldn't do it. So we needed to have kind of a family meeting to be like, this is why we do it. So her and I were on the same page, and it made it a lot easier for my son to wrap his head around.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. Brian, something to chime in?
Yeah, I think, no matter what situation you're in, even if it's, roses at home. I mean, we're now spending all of our day with our families. So, it's like, you gotta figure out the communication piece and make it work. And it's not perfect here. I won't lie. I mean, we gotta just figure out the best communication style, and that may change from hour to hour or day to day, whatever it is. But and just like I'm kind of preaching at work, it's like we got to over communicate and let the kids know that, because the other thing is they see the stress, they feel the anxiety, and it's like we got to let them know that that's there. But here's some healthy ways that we're kind of releasing that and letting it go, and also why it's happening. My older boys already, they understand the disappointment that surrounds what's going on. So it's just kind of figuring out how to communicate, talk it out with them, and don't stop the conversation. And I feel for people, we've got a friends that live with their parents, and they're living in kind of the basement. And my wife said it the other night. She's like, imagine if we were them. And I'm like, I don't know if we'd be surviving, and it wouldn't be COVID that caused the non-survival.
Get the construction workers back to work.
Yes, that is essential work right there.
Yes. Oh man. Well, I want to talk about one of the things. So we've kind of joined forces to create this really cool resource to help people through, right now, and all the virtual schooling, the homeschooling, the working from home. But it's also an amazing tool that can work over the summers or spring breaks, winter breaks, things of that nature. And it's a resource that we created, and it's called Big Rocks Little Kids. And essentially it is a 30-day calendar, planner, and resource to help both you and your kids to succeed at home. And this has been really, really fun to put together with you guys. And, just learning some of the immense resources that are out there. I think one of the things as a parent is that we don't know what we don't know. Right. And sometimes we only know what we know, of what we do, in between our four walls during different hours. And you guys have shown Matt and I and just unearthed just an amazingly robust and diverse set of resources to help people in a lot of different areas. And then also we put together this 30-day, it's a calendar and it's a planner. And it's also got a little bit of gamification, if you will, for parents to help you to plan your best day. And it's not that every single day is going to be perfect and you're going to, walk out and check off every single thing on the checklist and you're going to get every single thing done. And we know that that's not realistic. That's not realistic in our jobs, in our careers, in our businesses. It's not realistic in our relationships. Like there's always more things to do than you will ever get done. But if you can take these big rocks that Darren has been talking about, Brian's been sharing, Matt and I have been chiming in on, and you can put as many of them onto your daily schedule as possible. So that from 9 to 10 o'clock, it is, it's core educational content time. That's where you're doing the work that your teacher sent. From, 12 to 12:30, you're eating a nutritious lunch and getting the right, vitamins and minerals and vegetables and fruits. And your kids are being a part of that. And, having that free reading time and just putting these big rocks onto your calendar, you're going to end more days saying that was a pretty darn good day than, oh my God, that was a crap show, And I think that's the big thing we wanted to do with this. And so I am really excited to get this into people's hands. One of the other cool things that and I'd love for you guys to talk about this because you guys put this resource list together is that, if you see yourself, so there's 12 big rocks that we want to put on the calendar every day. And let's say that every single day you are not crossing off the reading block or the physical education block or the sleep block, whatever it is. You guys have pulled together an amazing resource list that's going to help people find activities, find experts, find programs, find ways to cook together with your kids. I mean, just this resource list is amazing, and we're going to keep adding to it and building to it. But just talk about that, because I think it's one thing to just say, yes, your kids need to sleep 8 hours a night. There's another to say, hey, my kids aren't sleeping 8 to 10 hours a night. How do I fix it? And that's something that we wanted to include into this resource. So Darren, Brian, if you want to talk a little bit about that. I know some of these are podcast guests, some of these are friends, some of these are governmental resources. Like, this is cool. And I'm really excited for adding this into the Big Rocks Little Kids Planner.
Yep. I mean, I think it was, look, that was the reason we came together and created the podcast. I mean, Darren and I met, 8+ years ago, and, he was telling me about his background, and then we both realized we both had that entrepreneurial spirit. So we were like, how can we bring something together and these resources that he has and bring them out and share them with people and share them with parents that need them. So it was really, that was kind of the underlying, that was definite reason for starting the podcast. And then now that we're kind of pivoting and becoming more of a resource to parents that are now home with their children, it's just, we got to give them, like he just talked about, the foundation, help them build that foundation.
Yeah. And I think it's what I'm noticing right now is that there are a lot of people are putting out a lot of information, and there's, all these activities you can do, and there's education.com and there's, Khan Academy, and it's almost like overwhelming for parents. It's overwhelming for me as an educator, but it's like, where do I go? What do I do? And how do I kind of, make sense of all this stuff? And so what we were trying to do is come up with a list of first of all, good people doing good things. So there's a good example of, there's a guest that we had, her name is Sarah Seaman. And so she has this whole thing where it's called Muddy Puddles. And the whole concept is about getting the kids outside. Now, we know we're quarantined right now, but we can also go outside if it's in a controlled environment and we're not playing basketball with strangers kind of thing. But Muddy Puddles is a perfect example of somebody good doing something good. And right now, she's even taken it to another level where she's offering like a free program. And we're noticing what, some of our guests, that's kind of what they're doing right now, because, they want to make a difference.
I would say all of our guests to date start their stories out with, I was in education, I was a teacher, I was, but I saw the need to X and I got out. And it's just, they want to make a difference. I mean, it's really that, just to go back to Sarah, I mean, she's right outside of London. And she just said, like, I saw such a need to teach kids how to teach them about use the outdoors and use nature to teach them a curriculum. And she has it for all age groups. So that's a huge resource. And like Darren just said, a lot of the folks we've connected with over the last couple of months are now offering their resources pretty much for free. Cloud9 World, one of our episodes that we did with Andrea Noctingale, we use it. She actually sent Darren and I her product, and it's essentially teaching kids about the different emotions that are going on. And we use it kind of to start our day. She has these cool little like stuffed animals. They're called kiwis, and they each have different emotions, an anger emotion, sad, it just, and there's stories to go along with them. And the kids kind of, really begin to understand, what it's about. So it's, like I said, it's amazing all the stuff that's out there. Can one be overwhelming big time? I think everything that's out there is now just, it's like drinking from a fire hose, but trying to pull together, resources that parents, a pool of resources that they can pull from is going to be, it's huge.
I think Greg hit on a really important point too, because as a parent, you want to, some of us are perfectionists. Some of us want to do everything. They want to get 12s every day on our chart and, to go everything to the top. And really when it comes down to it, like if you get through this whole thing, your kids learn how to kind of deal with a pandemic to a certain degree emotionally. And, a month from now, your kids are sleeping better and they've got better nutrition. Well, heck, man, you just did a great job.
Yeah.
Anything else on top of that, if you start to implement some of these other things, you'll notice that they're actually fun.
Yeah. I feel like we don't stop. Sometimes I don't do it. So I guess, we don't stop enough to pat ourselves on the back. And it just, we have to. I mean, our last episode with Dr. Robin Kozowitz, she talked about, like, that's the one thing I would remind people. Yes, this is going to be a great resource, but you got to also remember to take a weekend and stop from the day-to-day schedule that you're having, and let the kids enjoy some downtime and not think that you have to be so rigorous. And my wife and I looked at each other the other day. She's like, oh, they didn't get enough schoolwork done, kind of like what you were saying, Greg. And it's like, it's okay. Mm-hmm. Like, this is not normal. Yeah. Like, we're going to come out on the other side of this and get back to normal. But right now we got to, go easy on ourselves.
In some ways, this is a reset, isn't it? If you're all getting that, how you say, to hit that button, to hit the pause button and spend some time with the family, it's more of a blessing than a curse. And with this resource list and with this whole calendar, it helps us kind of do that time management piece. So we have the time where we can actually be present with our kids, because they're not going to be this young for that long.
No.
Right?
So I just wanted to jump in because I know we're getting close to running out of time, but just a question. This might be more for Darren than for Brian, but jump in. But, talking about the fact that this is kind of a unique experience and a unique thing, do you think, like, what is the impact you think this pandemic and this time at home will actually have on our kids in terms of either how they look back or, being out of school and getting education? Have you thought at all about, like, what the long-term impact would be on kids for this period?
Well, I think there's two questions there. One is it going to have an impact as far as curriculum, and are we able to kind of deliver the same amount of education that they have in the school district, so to speak? And then the other piece is kind of the emotional kind of ramifications or learning consequences, I guess is that what you're asking, basically?
Yeah, I think so.
So, I mean, there's research upon research about, how do kids kind of regress during the summer versus if the kids were kind of have longer school years. The bottom line is that it depends on the kid. I'm finding that with some of the students that we're working with now, we have an opportunity to be a little bit more intensive in the areas that they need help in. So sometimes with the schools, because when it's very difficult for them to do everything. So they might, if the child needs help with reading, they might only get like a half an hour of reading time. But that reading is the construct that they need, or the foundation they need for all curriculum. And so now you can be more intensive about approaching the reading piece. And we recommend the same thing in the summer. It's not about having this, it's about hitting the big blocks. And so if a kid has a reading challenge, you work on it during the summer, and then they go on and they do their science and their math and everything fantastically. So that's kind of that piece. And the other piece is this emotional kind of, how is this all going to impact our kids when they're older? And I think from what we've been learning from the true professionals in the field is it's all about your communication and the way that you project your own feelings about this. If you're super anxious, if you're watching the news at full blast every day, and you've created an environment of fear, the children will soak that up. If you decided this is a good time to spend your one-to-one time with your kids, I swear this is an absolute truth. It was about a weekend, and my daughter asked me something, and she's 8, moving on 9, and I looked at her and I answered her question, and I was present, and it felt like it's been a really long time since I was literally in that moment paying so much attention to her and answering her without some other light going off in my head. And I have to say, to me, that was pretty emotional, because then I realized as a parent, you know what, I think I'm there, but I'm not 100% there. And that, I think if we take all of that and we pull that all together, we can actually get a lot out of this.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer of staying on the positive side of it. I've heard a lot of reference to, this is going to have the impact of, that 9/11 did, or, the impact that, I look at this age, this group of kids are resilient. Kids are resilient in general. And it's like, I look at it, look at them now, like they're doing, the drills that they're doing in school for an active shooter. And it almost becomes second nature to them, where, as parents, that's our worst nightmare. But look, is it going to really suck before it gets better? Absolutely. But I think we have a resilient group of kids. We've got a resilient, nation, not to get too emotional on it, but I think we're going to come out on the other side of it that we're going to learn from this. And like Darren just said, we're going to have a lot of positives that came out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And I can only hope, and I'm going to wrap up this episode by making sure that everyone who listens to this goes to bigrockslittlekids.com and grabs this new 30-day calendar, planner, and resource to help you and your kids to succeed at home. The cool thing right now, it is absolutely free. We just ask you to tell us where to send it. So just give us your email address, and we will send it to you right away, along with any updates to this resource as we continue to add things and get feedback on it. And then also there are definitely links to listen to both podcasts from both of us. Or all 4 of us, both groups, both sets of podcasts here. But truly, like, if you are looking for something to just give you, your family, your kids a slight edge during this pandemic and this time of creating a new normal, I think this is really going to be helpful for you guys. Right now, it'll help you to plan out the next 30 days so that every day you have a family schedule of what is going to be happening, and, kind of this checklist of these big rocks, the big things that are going to move you and your kids forward, help them, both from an emotional side, from an educational side, from a physical side, during these times. Hopefully, you only need to use it for the next 30 days. But if you're in this thing for the next 60, 90 days, we are here for you. bigrockslittlekids.com is where you can find it. Absolutely free. Just tell us where to send it. Hopefully, we're going to be getting some versions of these printed up and all kinds of fun stuff and different versions of them as we go. But one step at a time, my friends, one step at a time. bigrockslittlekids.com. Darren, Brian, Matt, I appreciate you guys taking some time in the middle of your day. I know Matt took some notes. I took some notes. This was extremely valuable. And again, I think we're going to help In our world, a bunch of dads. In your world, a bunch of parents. But look, we're all in this together during this time. Absolutely. Both moms, dads, everybody, everybody on the family side. And, with resources like this, with guys like you, on our side, I think we're going to make it, man. I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Sound Foundations for Parenting podcast with your hosts, Darren and Brian. Find them on social media at Sound Foundations for Parenting. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And we'll catch you next time on the Sound Foundations for Parenting podcast.